The early to mid-90s was a springboard for some of the greatest indie filmmakers that cinema has ever seen, from Tarantino to Soderbergh, Linklater to Rodriguez. Indie filmmaking hit a peak that was never truer than with Kevin Smith. His self-financed debut, Clerks, put him on the map, and while his movies may not have been box office smashes, Smith has built a career spanning 4 decades with a loyal fan base. We're here to count down his 10 greatest moments, but first, here are 10 Smith facts. Waiting for the music. Wait. This has to be the back in for it. Okay, number 1. Kevin Smith was born on the 2nd of August 1970, which is 1 year and 1 day different to me.
It's not a tumor.
Oh shit!
Not a tumor at all.
That's the wrong one.
It's not a tumor, it's a Kevin Smith.
Bollocks. Oh, Kevin, I'm so sorry.
Yo, you guys holding? Shit, everything but coke, heroin, in your cock.
Number 2, Smith sold his comic book collection to help fund his first movie, Clerks. After the film was a success, he bought his collection back.
Dude, the Transformers sucked.
Smith cast Alan Rickman as Metatron in Dogma after hearing that he was a fan of Chasing Amy.
Ain't nothing left but fire and brimstone.
When Dogma set off some fringe members of the Catholic faith, Smith decided to join in on the fun. After finding out about a local protest, Smith joined not in disguise, but it was being interviewed about the film himself.
Oh, yeah, look, it's a sailboat. You saw it too, damn it!
With Red State walking... Oh, Christ. Smith's Red State walking Westboro Baptist Church led to a full-on protest war between the church and the filmmakers, with a sign reading, "Dick tastes yummy," being met with a disgusting handshake from the Phelpses. Smith is married to Jennifer Schwalbach, and they got married at George Lucas's Skywalker Ranch.
Hey, try not to suck any dick on the way through the parking lot.
In one of his podcasts, Smith revealed how the name of Silent Bob came to be, in part from a character in Tim Burton's Batman, Bob the Goon, citing in particular Jack Nicholson's line, "Bob, gun," and the character stoically handing him a gun.
I don't like the sound of them apples. Well, what are we gonna do?
After Mallrats in 1995, Smith pitched an idea he had for Jaws 5 to Universal. They gave him the go-ahead to write a treatment, but he had other projects to work on. Bong! And after approached by Dimension chairman Bob Weinstein to do a Jay and Silent Bob Hellraiser crossover, in the same vein as the old Abbott and Costello meets the Wolfman crossovers, Smith declined.
Dude, I think I just filled the cup.
And finally, in a review of Clerks 1994, one critic described his writing style as David Mamet meets Howard Stern.
Snoochy boochies.
Snoochy boochies indeed, ladies and gentlemen. God, I really butchered that, didn't I? But I'm here. I've got my Kevin Smith top on. I've got Buddy Christ behind me. So it only leaves me to introduce the one and only Maria is back again.
Hey!
How are you, Maria?
I'm well. I've got my cup of tea. I've got my list of quotes and moments. I'm ready to go.
Excellent. How hard did you find... Now, you said before that you've been doing a lot of sort of swatting up on this and working out what you were going to... Like, watching a load of stuff. How hard was it to put a top 10 together?
You know what? It was... it was hard because I was trying to run the entire gamut of what he's done. And so what I ended up doing is I kept it within the Clerks, Mallrats, like kind of universe, sort of. So I didn't, no spoilers, I suppose, for my list, but I didn't necessarily include Red State, which I love that movie. But I was like, you know what? No. And or Tusk or anything like that. But it was hard to not play favorites because I definitely have like an ultimate favorite Kevin Smith movie. But yeah, it was a little bit of a challenge. I adore him and everything that he's done, but it was just hard to not pick one or maybe two movies and just fill it with nothing but those moments.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a fan. I think it was Dogma that I sort of joined the party, if you like, and then went back and started watching. But obviously, all the podcasting stuff is something that I've been very, especially Hollywood Babylon, which introduced me to Ralph Garman, which then introduced me to Kevin and Bean, which has then opened up a whole other world, you know, of things that I'm a fan of, and people that I love now, you know, that have, you know, even talking about yourself there, Maria, as well. But it's weird because I mean, I've met Kevin Smith twice now, and I've been very, very lucky that I met him. We managed to get backstage. He and Ralph came to the UK. I can't remember what year it was now, and to do live Hollywood Babylons, and we got backstage. And
that's amazing.
So I think it must have been 2016, because it was just when we started podcasting, and the original plan for us to start podcasting was that we tried to get tickets as press to go to Comic-Con in San Diego, and then when we never got them, being the idiots that we are, Neil and I said, why don't we just go to LA for like a week? Tell the wives that it's a business trip, and just go to LA for a week. So we ended up booking just 6 days in LA, which was just crazy and stupid, to go to the Hollywood Improv and go and watch Hollywood Babylon. Just that's what we're going to do. So we managed to get tickets to see them live over here, got backstage and said, we're coming to Hollywood to come and watch Hollywood Babylon. And Kevin Smith said, don't buy tickets. I'll comp you tickets. So just, speak to my PA, which happened to be Jay Muse's wife, Jordan Monsantano, I think her name is. Because Jay was there as well, so we got a photograph of Jay, got a photo of Jen Swolback was there. It was just lovely. It was so nice, and Ralph was really nice, and Kev was stoned but really nice. He's a really, really nice guy. Neil got a kiss from Jen, but she wouldn't kiss me. Maybe because I just looked too much like her husband. I don't know. And so we ended up going, and the weird thing was that we got outside the Hollywood Improv, and the person behind the counter had no record, no recollection. There was no email. So I'm in the middle of wherever the Hollywood Improv is, trying to get onto Twitter and at Kevin Smith to say, look, we're here. And just as I was like losing my mind, then the lady came and said, sorry, I was looking in the wrong folder on the emails. It's all here. There's 2 shows tonight. You've got tickets to 2 shows. They used to do a thing called, I can't remember what it was called, but they used to read out comic books.
Oh, yeah. I remember.
So it was a Green Lantern, the one that Kevin Smith and Ralph Garman had written, I think. So they would read it out. Kevin Smith would be the narrator, Ralph would do voices, and they would always get people out of the audience. I'd listened to a couple of episodes. So when we got to that point and we were in the front row, we got tickets to the front row. As soon as he said, does anybody want to come up on stage? I just went, yeah. And he went, fuck me, this guy. So I got up, I was on stage on the Hollywood Improv, where people like, Robin Williams and Eddie Murphy and all these amazing comedians have been, with the red brick wall and all that. And I played Mr. Flam, the bank manager.
Oh, that's amazing.
So every time I had a line of dialogue, Kev just said, like we're best mates. Yeah. Kev just said, he just said, I'll just do an English accent. That's fine. So, of course, I'm thinking, do Hugh Grant. So I'm going, hello, how are you? And he's going, no, do an English accent. I said, what do you mean? He goes, like, gore blimey, governor, and all stuff like that. So I did it as the best sort of Dick Van Dyke that I could get. And he was in stitches. He was absolutely pissing himself. And I thought to myself, this is like, to have someone like Kevin Smith. First of all, I said on the thing, I think you can still hear it in the back catalogue of Hollywood Babylon. And I said, oh my God, I'm being directed by Kevin Smith. And Kev says, that's not normally a good thing. It didn't do Ben Affleck any good, and all, all this kind of stuff. But in the end, it got from that. Ralph then said to us afterwards, come to K-Rock. I'd like to invite you to K-Rock. So we ended up going to K-Rock. We went to K-Rock for like the end of the Kevin and Bean show, when they would, not as in like it was the end of that day. Yeah. So we went into the thing when they had a break and met Lisa May and met Beer Mug.
Oh my God.
Met,
my fire beer mug, but whatever.
Yeah, but all of them. Chip came and got us from the. I mean, for a lot of you, this isn't going to mean anything, but anybody that is that.
I am so jealous right now.
And of course, with Bean, he wasn't there. He was in Seattle. So there's this disembodied voice that all of a sudden goes, "Hi, how you doing?" You know. I hear you got a podcast. He said, "Tell us what it is. I'll check it out. Have a listen." So it was just so surreal. The whole 5 or 6 days in LA was so surreal. So it was great to be able to meet him once, but to be able to meet him and have that kind of interaction with him.
Yeah.
It was just fantastic. So
that's amazing.
Kind of like my love for him.
Yeah.
I think was at its apex there.
Yeah.
You know, and when it came to...
Of course.
Yeah, and I will say some of my top 10 has also got some of his, what you call stand-up, or his, you know, his are they stand-up? Would you call them stand-up? Or his evening withs?
Yeah.
Evening withs. But yeah, I that's my sort of, that's my famous moment kind of thing. But and the only regret is that we had an email from Jordan the following day or the day after or something. And it was something in the vein of, you know, when are you going back? Because I said, we're going back in a couple of days, and we had other things planned. And even now, I think to myself, was she asking because maybe we could have gone to Kevin Smith's house or something? Do you know what I mean? We'll never know.
Knowing Kevin,
we'll never know now. But you just could have thought, shit, if we'd have just said, you know, if there's anything that Kevin wants us to do, yeah, we'll gladly come. But we never, I never sort of scratched that itch, you know, which I should have done. But
weren't they here? I don't know. Did they already come to England, or are they on schedule to be here? Because I think Kevin Smith and Jay Muse were supposed to be here, but I didn't look at the schedule.
Yes, I saw some on his Facebook or on Twitter that they were planning, but they're filming the new Jay and Silent Bob movie, and they had to cancel their live podcast whenever it was. I'm not sure exactly when. It must have been in the summertime.
Okay.
So it ended up getting cancelled. Yeah, which was a real bummer. But
jeez.
But yeah, so I mean, I've like I say, I've always had that kind of, I feel like a infinity with him, because my birthday is one day. I'm August 3rd, 1969. He's August 2nd, 1970. I mean, not now, but we were both more rounded fellows with beards, and again, I used to with glasses, but he doesn't wear glasses anymore and stuff. I kind of thought, oh my God, is he like a brother from another mother kind of thing, you know? So I kind of always had,
so well loved.
Wow. I don't know quite about that. I wish I had Ben Affleck's old house. That would be lovely.
Oh my God.
So I take it, you've listened to his podcasts and stuff like that as well?
So my relationship with Kevin Smith, it began, you know, as far as knowing of him and his like cinematic universe and stuff, it began in the late 90s. So this was probably right after Chasing Amy was released, but before Dogma came out.
Right.
But I didn't start with Chasing Amy. In fact, I just rewatched it recently because it was not quite the subject matter was not quite in my realm of interest, despite being a Kevin Smith movie. I don't really give a shit about relationships. I mean, I like romance movies just fine, I guess. But even though I've probably watched 2005's Pride and Prejudice ad nauseum at this point, but that wasn't me in my teens. And so I was in that stage of hanging out with friends, being absolutely just basically a mall rat. And so we started with Mallrats, backtracked to Clerks, and that was it. My friends and I would hang out every single weekend, go buy pizza, go rent movies from a video store, from a VHS cassette, and we would watch Mallrats and Clerks. And when Dogma and Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back came out as theatrical releases, we watched those in the movie theater. In fact, when Jay and Silent Bob came out, Strike Back, I was technically grounded for attending a party that got raided by the police.
Oh dear.
And being like obscenely hungover for about 3 days. And so technically I was not supposed to go but somehow I managed to talk my mom into letting me go. Yeah, so you know, but it just like my love for Kevin Smith just spanned throughout my entire high school, college career, and um, to the point where my friend and I were in drama classes, and so all 4 years of high school we were in drama, and I did other like fine arts stuff predominantly, but we this is a fun fact, I love this, but we ended up causing our drama teacher to have to review our material before we would submit it for performance because we performed so many Kevin Smith pieces that were definitely not safe for high school.
Yeah, definitely not.
So um and so yeah, we we offended some sensibilities of many people.
And I mean, to be fair, that's Kevin Smith's thing, isn't it? It's his stuff. If you've got those kind of sensibilities, you're best off to stay away from Kevin Smith's work, because whether it's a podcast or whatever, the swearing, it's juvenile, you know, but it's the kind of stuff that I think how can I put this? It's like it's being a child but being an adult, isn't it? And I kind of feel like I've always been like that, you know.
Well, it's a realistic adult, you know, because the way that the way adults can be portrayed sometimes are just these big, like these very stuffy, buttoned up people who supposedly have all their shit together, and who are not still making like dick and fart jokes into their 30s, 40s, 50s, and that's no adult I've ever met.
No.
I don't know what that says about the people that I've kept around me.
But I wouldn't want to be that kind of adult where
absolutely
you know,
not.
There's nothing wrong with dick and fart jokes. I genuinely feel a fart joke, and I've said it before,
hilarious.
it's the funniest thing ever.
They are.
So, you know, I don't think it's not something to be ashamed of, I don't think.
Well, and so like, and this is, and I'm sorry for the fanboys who may or may not be listening, or who may be listening. Everybody listens to Pav. We all love Pav, but I did not, honestly, I didn't really get or care about the Star Wars or comic book references that Kevin Smith made in like any of his movies at the time. My husband's like a massive Star Wars comic book fan, and so over the years we have since rectified this grave injustice that is my lack of knowledge of the universes. But at the time, I still loved Kevin Smith, you know, separate from how much he uses that as his fodder for, you know, storytelling.
Yeah. But I think I think when Kevin Smith is at the top of his game, there is something for everybody in those movies, you know, because as you said in one of the messages before, it's like you were crying watching back some of the things, and there's some real touching stuff in some of his movies. I will say, I mean, Kev, if you happen to listen to this, I love you. I always will love you. But some of the movies have not hit as hard for me. You know, there's been some movies that have just not been his best work. But when he's got his best work, it's some of the best work around, as far as I'm concerned. So, you know, right. So the other thing we've got to do before we actually start our top 10 is we've got to do this.
Yes. Lisa's challenge.
Lisa's challenge.
What the fuck are you saying?
Okay. So how many do you think we're going to get the same in these 10?
Well, it's hard, Ding. I'm gonna go for, I know it's a low number, but I'm gonna go for 3.
Okay, that was what I was going to say, to be honest.
Okay,
so
all
I'm
right,
going to go lower, and I'm going to say 2.
Let's count that as 1 already.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, no, you can't have that. Don't start doing that. Yeah. So I'm going to go 2. I think there's going to be a couple that are definitely. It depends, right? Yeah, it depends. I'll go for 2. You go for 3. So, Maria, kick us off with your number 10 Kevin Smith moment.
So my number 10 Kevin Smith moment, and I found it today. So I had not watched Clerks 3 yet.
Oh, right. Okay.
And I knew, and I had listened to you mentioning before that it really wasn't for you. And I saw a little bit of that commentary floating around online that it was kind of meh, you know, not going to lie. I like it more than Clerks 2. I'll just say that.
Okay.
I loved it. Um, that's where I made the quote, the comment about my mask, trying not to crack it.
Right.
And then I cried and I had like streaks. Anyway, so number 10 is "You're the hero of my movie, Dante." And so that's when Randall sneaks into the hospital to show Dante the final cut of the movie and basically what he feels about Dante. And it was just, that's what I mean when like Kevin Smith just gut punches you right in the heart with these, you know, these degenerate characters having real complex human emotions. And it was that where you're just like, damn, that is just, I wasn't expecting to cry about this, but it was so good. It was just such a great scene.
And it was as much as the whole of the movie didn't particularly gel with me, I didn't find it particularly funny, and that bit is because it kind of makes everything, it makes the whole Clerks full circle, but it's also very obviously very personal to Kevin Smith because the whole heart attack and stuff. The only other thing is, and I know this is horrible because it was great that he survived the heart attack and he looks amazing, you know, he looks great now, but I just can't get over a thin Silent Bob. I just, you know, it's like you've got Jay there and it needs to be a bigger Silent Bob. It's just that that's the kind of how I like it. So when you see Kev as Silent Bob, it just isn't the same because when I mean, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back is my favorite Kevin Smith film. And I just love their dynamic in that. And maybe it's just because I like that version of Kevin, although Kevin looks amazing now.
But like we go with whatever's imprinted on us, right?
Yeah,
you know,
I agree.
like if you would have seen a Silent Bob the way he is now previously, then you would never have that as your basis for comparison. And
exactly.
Completely
agree. But that is a good one. It's not for me, the movie, but that is a great scene. So my number 10, I'm going for something from Red State. I can remember being, pardon my French, but balls deep into Kevin Smith and his podcast, all the different podcasts that he had at the time. And he had one that was specifically about the making of Red State. And it was the fact that he made what I would class as a proper film. And it was a film that nobody in a million years would have thought that Kevin Smith could make a film like this. And after seeing it for the first time, I was so excited because I thought, wow, if Kev can make this kind of movie, who knows what he's going to make in the future? This is like this. And then Yoga Hosers happened. But anyway, let's not go down that route. But Red State was there was a couple of little moments of sort of comedy in it. But it was so dark.
Oh, it was. It was so good.
Oh, my God. It was just... I mean, I'll come to Michael Parks later on in my top 10. But how that man never got an Oscar nomination for Red State, I have no idea.
That was phenomenal.
Yeah. So, but what I'm going for the moment in the movie that kind of turned the movie, and it's when Kevin Pollak gets shot in the eye. It was totally out of the blue. Again, spoilers if you've never seen it. He's one of the FBI or a policeman with John Goodman, and they're just laying siege to this house, which is very Westboro Baptist Church, kind of religious crazes in there. And he's just talking, and the next minute, pop, he gets shot straight in the eye. And all hell then sort of breaks loose. And it was just such a moment that you thought, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
It just kind of, it was an unsettling movie to start with anyway, but that just kind of made it go, right, now I've got no idea what's going to happen now, because that really just came out of the blue.
Are you familiar with, first of all, I mean, I feel like pardoning anyone's French on a Kevin Smith podcast subject matter is just that's just out the window.
Yeah, that's stupid.
In the early 90s, I don't know how much you all knew about David Koresh, the Branch Davidian compound.
Yes, Waco.
Yeah, Waco.
Yeah.
So that's what Red State really reminds me of. I'm fairly certain, don't quote me on this, but I think that's kind of part of the inspiration too, where like
Right.
they're laying siege on this house of this like religious fanaticism, and it really has like those echoes of that. But yeah, no, it's God, that movie's so good.
Yeah.
I'm so good. I think I'm just gonna have to go home. I am home. I'm gonna have to once we're done here, watch it again because it's just amazing.
Yeah, I haven't seen it for a while, but it was one of those movies that the first time I watched it, it's kind of one of those movies that you watch it once and then you think, oh, really, it's so unsettling. I don't think I want to watch it again.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if you was to lay 100 different movies out and say pick the Kevin Smith one, and that was in there, I'm sure that 99 times or 100 times people would not pick that as a Kevin Smith film. It's not really got any of the traits of, there are no dick or fart jokes in there from what I can remember. But it was such a grown up, just a brilliant detour in the kind of movies that he had made. And again, Michael Parks, just spellbinding. Absolutely. Okay then, your number 9 then, please.
So I had 2 back to back because I wasn't sure which one I wanted. But you know what? I'm just gonna go. No, okay. Sorry. That's what I'm gonna do. It's Hooper X in Chasing Amy. Okay. But it's the scene where they're in the comic book shop with Holden, and they're having the conversation about gay versus lesbian. And it's the "what is it about gay men that terrifies the rest of the world" is the quote that really like stands out there, because Hooper X, for those who possibly don't remember, he plays the militant black man who's very like of the Black Panthers of the 70s, 60s and 70s in the US type, and he really plays into that character. So the one I was going to pick was Black Rage, where they introduce him at the beginning of the movie. But I love this one more because it just like it shows Kevin Smith also just kind of acknowledging that, like, with this dialogue, like, what is it about a gay man that terrifies the rest of the world? And Hooper X talking about how, not only is he a gay man, but he's a Black gay man. To quote, like, the swishiest of the bunch, and it's just such a great piece of dialogue between him and Holden that just, I kind of like that more because it feels a little bit more sincere than the Black Rage one, which is hilarious. But so that's my number 9. Yeah,
it's also the when it is the Star Wars moment in that as well. That whole monologue is fantastic as well. But it's I watched Chasing Amy about 3 or 4 months ago, and I love that film. The only thing that makes me cringe is when I forget her name. Who was the main woman in it?
Joy Lauren Adams.
Yes, when she's singing.
Yeah,
it's just a little bit cringy, that is. But I kind of get the feeling, because that was Kevin Smith's girlfriend at the time, wasn't it? Or were they? I know or they would just finish going out with each other. But I think, but yeah,
that I was not aware of
the Hooper X bit. Yeah, that's and I think
fantastic.
he's I think the best character in the whole movie, because he kind of steals every scene that he's in.
He really does. He really does. And I didn't realize how much I would like Chasing Amy until I rewatched it recently, and I was just like, this is a much better movie than I gave it credit for. Although, my God, Ben Affleck's character is so unlikable. I could not stand his character at all.
Kevin Smith is good at doing that as well, of putting some real, for a British term, a real knobhead in some of his movies. They've pretty much every movie's got at least one.
Yeah,
and he's good at doing that. Okay, my number 9. I don't want to tell if you haven't heard the Superman Lives story on An Evening with Kevin Smith. He's and again, if you haven't watched any of the Evening Withs, he's so good, because one thing that Kevin Smith can do is talk. He is great at telling stories, and the Superman Lives one is one of those famous ones. I will put it in the video playlist for the Patreon subscribers, because the less I say about it, the better it is that you just watch it in his tongue and the way he says it. But the basically idea is that when Tim Burton was down to do the Superman movie with Nick Cage as Superman, Kevin Smith was hired to do a rewrite, or I think maybe do the actual original story. And was it John Peters, I think the famous producer, said, okay, but I don't want to see Superman in his costume. So Kevin Smith's going, right, okay. He said, right, and I want to see spiders. I want to see big metal spiders. And so he's going, okay, all right. So in the end, they all split ways. And he was in the theatre watching Wild Wild West, which was produced by the same guy. And all of a sudden, there's fucking big metal spiders in there. And he said, oh my God, he's got big metal spiders in there. But obviously Kevin tells it a lot better than I do. But I'll put it in the show, in the Patreon video playlist, because it is really, really funny. So that's my number 9. Okay, nice. Your number 8 then, please.
My number 8 is the first appearance of Dogma in this list, and that is where God does a handstand.
Right. Yeah.
I love that scene, and I missed it over multiple rewatches before, but then I don't remember when I finally put the two together. But when Silent Bob is bringing Bethany back, and she's very much dead, and they revive her, spoilers, of course, but Alan Rickman tells her that she was the last scion and indicates that she's now pregnant. You see Alanis Morissette go and start to set up and do the handstand, and then it cuts to this scene, and then she kind of pops over. And I loved it because I love that whole scene of God returning, but I loved that because it was just like, even God's got to pull some stuff to make some of these things happen. And it's just kind of that nice little bit of symbolism that, like, well, hold on, let me get this done.
I mean, so there's so much that we can say about Dogma. Dogma, I think, is my second favorite Kevin Smith film, because it just has everything. It's got so many people in that went on to be massive stars.
Yes,
didn't it? It's crazy when you watch it now. You think of, God, what the budget of that movie would have been if you wanted to make it now with the same people. Right?
Yeah. No, that movie was so good. It was just, that was for the longest time one of my favorites. So I had to go to, my mom forced me into Catholic school when I was younger. So I went to Catholic school for a few years, and it was just like, we had the pastor, we had the Monsignor actually, who was like straight from Ireland, Monsignor O'Keefe, and and just these, like, all this symbolism that reminded me so much of like my own childhood with it. And George Carlin is amazing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He's one of my favorite comedians of all time, and so yeah, it's such a great movie.
Yeah, I need to watch it again. I think you can see it on YouTube. I think the whole movie is on YouTube, because I can't remember where I'd seen it, but I saw Kevin Smith talking about it, the fact that he doesn't own the rights to it, so they can't bring it out on Blu-ray. But he did say that somebody has ripped the DVD version. It's a really good version, and it's on YouTube. So I will put the whole movie onto the video playlist for our subscribers, so you can watch it, and I will watch it again. It's just,
and you should,
absolutely you should. I will be talking about it a little bit later on, obviously. So my number 8, I'm going to go to Mallrats, and I'm going to go with Jay and Silent Bob and the Jedi Mind Trick. I mean, to be fair, I could talk about everything that Jay and Silent Bob do in Mallrats. To me, makes the movie. I love Jason Lee. He's fantastic in this movie. He sort of holds it all together. Drinking from that little, what is it called? Is it a sippy cup, is it?
It's basically, yeah, it's like the little mouthwash cups we used to get at the dentist.
Right.
Like the little sample cup. Yeah.
And I don't know what he's drinking, but he makes it last.
Coke, no ice.
Coke, no ice, of course it is.
Fill this up with Coke, no ice.
But he makes it last the whole bloody movie, doesn't he? I don't know how he does it. It's got to be the smallest sips you've ever taken in your life. But for me, Jay and Silent Bob, so kind of they steal the movie. You've got the fly fat ass fly line, and dressed up as he has this full Batman costume with the extendable wings. And the Jedi mind trick, and that it's just so funny. And I think that's it, apart from Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, it's them at the top of their game,
Absolutely.
And in the end, for me, that was the thing that made me watch Kevin Smith films, was when Jay and Silent Bob turned up, because they were just so funny. So when they made a whole movie of the two of them, I was just like a pig in shit, as we would say,
Yeah,
so I can't.
No, that was amazing.
Mallrats is The one that started you off on the Kevin Smith journey.
That is my favorite. That's my favorite Kevin Smith movie of all time is Mallrats. Just because like where Dogma is probably, it's like Dogma, Mallrats, Clerks are like my big three in the Kevin Smith world.
Right.
But it's just like the shenanigans, they like all of the like the bullshit that they get into in those movies, and just wandering around the mall, and everything was just so much of, we were feral when we were teens, you know. I think anything that like my parents didn't have to do to actually like like make sure that I was like either fed or whatever, which my parents were lovely, but like they also just let us free roam like the sheep on Scotland's Isle of Skye apparently. But yeah, they just let us go. And so that was a lot of what, you know, resonated with me with Mallrats, is just going and wandering aimlessly and being a mall rat, and getting into trouble.
Yeah.
But not too much trouble.
I
Just
can't
enough.
believe you ever, a good Catholic girl like you never got into trouble, I'm sure.
Oh my God.
The stories you could tell.
Remind me to tell you the story of the time that I got put under surveillance by the U.S. Marshals. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
I take it this is for when we stop recording, is it?
Sure.
What's the statute of limitations on that? Can you still get done for it?
Well, you know what? I'm not that. Let's just say I didn't like. They couldn't. There was nothing to hold me on. I didn't have like. It was not my fault. I was an innocent bystander who got sucked in, but I did get put under surveillance by the U.S. Marshals for a brief period.
When you say a brief period, I mean I take it that they've stopped the surveillance now.
Oh yeah, we're done. They're done.
Yeah, that's not a drone I can see just outside your window there.
Oh, it might be. So I used to live in a national park. I do have to tell this story. So I used to live in a national park, and this was after I had the U.S. Marshals run in, and I was pulling up there to work one day, and this was just after driving cross country, and I happened to look in the headliner of my car for whatever reason, and I saw a microphone, and I was like,
oh my God.
So it freaked me out. And so I called the park rangers, and I was like, look, I know this might be nothing, but I have a microphone in my car and I don't remember it being there. And at one point I was under surveillance by the US Marshals and all this other stuff. And so they came and they started like pulling my dash apart and like pulling this microphone out. And the cable starts running line to my stereo system. And then they said, do you have a Bluetooth microphone in your car? And I was like, oh. I just got one installed before I drove cross country. In fact, this is probably the microphone.
Oh my God.
So it wasn't anything other than that.
But I'd say it. See, this is what it is. The government puts these ideas in your head, and
here's the hell out of you.
It's how they keep order.
Just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not out to get you.
Dear me.
All right. So for whatever it's worth, it was because of my roommate. They were the ones who had the warrant, and so the entire house got put under surveillance, including myself. Right. I never knew they were there
until you saw the microphone, of course, that you put in yourself.
Exactly, that I put in myself. Or until they asked me questions about conversations I had that I don't remember telling anyone about.
Well, the thing is Maria even your real name? I don't know. Maybe you're under witness protection. Is that why you're in our country now? See that
if I told you.
Yes, yeah, don't tell me. I don't want to get involved. I got enough microphones around me. I don't need any more. Okay, moving swiftly on.
Yep.
What's your number 7 then, Maria?
My number 7 is Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. And that is the very end, like post credits, where Jay is standing there with Millennium and Bob, and Dante walks up and he goes, for 25 years, we've been coming here every night and putting gum in the locks. And it was just the best callback to Clerks. That was priceless. It was just perfection.
That's a good one. That is a good one. Gum in the locks. Yeah. So what did you think about the reboot?
I enjoyed that it was a bit tongue in cheek with the way that they were talking about how reboots are partially only serve as like just a way for the movie companies to get more money without having to create a whole new, universe, and then include like, this more diverse younger cast, which is exactly what it was. And so I liked it for that. I preferred Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, I think, but I do like Kevin Smith's daughter's Harley Quinn's acting. I think she's a great actress.
Yeah, I think she's good. Yeah.
But as a whole, I would probably. It was all right. It was good. I think that Jay's acting has gotten better over time.
Agree with that.
And so I liked it. I did, but I liked a lot more of the cameos in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Yeah, yeah. And my only sort of issue with the reboot was it seemed to the music was almost like trying to tell you how you should be feeling, right? Oh, this is going to be like a melancholy moment or a sad moment.
Yeah.
So the music sort of swelled too much to try and make you feel those things rather than the movie making you feel those things. So I felt a little bit sort of like it was pulling me down the road when, I mean, it was definitely for me better than say the movie or two before that, where you had Yoga Hosers and Tusk. I like Tusk. I really like Tusk, but yeah, it was okay. But the trouble is, I think he set such a high bar in his first 5 or 6 movies that it was kind of anything that's below that feels like it's a little bit inferior. But
and that's kind of the reason that I had a hard time pulling from some of the newer movies too, because I really liked them. They were great, but they were not quite. They didn't quite imprint on me the same way that the originals did.
Not quite as memorable, I don't think. No, I completely agree. And talking of Tusk, my number 7, I'm going to go for Johnny Depp in Tusk. As Guy Lapointe, I think that's how you say it. I don't know how you say it. But he was so over the top. And he was so, I mean, I would love it if there was a whole movie of like him, almost like the Knives Out, Rian Johnson movies, where it's him, busting some kind of, 5 or 6 people all in a room together and he has to work out who the killer is. He was so over the top. Tusk is an over-the-top movie. That was the movie that we went and saw when we were in LA. That's it. Neil and I, there was the 2 of us and one other guy in the theatre.
Oh, right? My God.
So it was quite a big theatre. It was an afternoon showing, and the guy sat right behind us. There was every other seat that he could have sat in, and he sat right behind us, and I thought, this is like fucking Cape Fear or something, it's like this is really, really weird. But we came out of that movie thinking that was not to the extent of Red State, but it was still such a weird movie. It's some guy gets made into a human walrus is all I'm going to say. And Michael Parks again, unbelievable. Just such a chilling performance. But if anybody gets a chance to watch it, I don't know whether it's anywhere to watch, but yeah, it's a mad film.
That is, I didn't get a chance to watch that one yet. That was kind of in that space where my ability to access content was kind of limited because I was living in a national park getting surveilled apparently. Like, the accessibility to like theaters that were playing it and stuff like that was so minimal. And then by the time that it had become available, it just kind of like left my mind. But didn't he get Johnny Depp because Harley Quinn was such good friends with Lily Rose?
That's right. Well, they have a cameo in that in Tusk, which is the same characters that they play in Yoga Hosers.
Yes.
So I'm sure that's the reason that that they got Johnny Depp. And I think I can't never remember his name, but the guy that played Elvis in last year's movie, he's also got a walk-on part in Tusk as well. Austin Butler. That's it. I can never remember that guy's name.
I had to think of it for a second.
Sorry, Austin, if you're listening as well, because you're a Kevin Smith fan,
Like, it's all right, mama.
Yeah. Nice. And Justin Long obviously was in it as well. Haley Joel Osment was in it from The Sixth Sense. He's a lot more hairier in Tusk than he was in The Sixth Sense, that's for sure. But yeah, it's a good movie, but it's weird. So that's all I would say. So just sort of like leave reality at the door when you go and watch it. But it's fun. It is fun. Go on then, Maria. Your number 6, please.
So my number 6 is from Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, and it is the opening scene where Jay's mom drops, or they, where they meet as babies in front of the quick stop, and she starts cursing out the guy, and baby Jay, or baby Harley Quinn, starts singing "fuck, fuck, fuck, fuck," and then it just merges into them present day.
Yeah.
That whole sequence, I had that as my ringtone back in the day when we could actually be ours to have our like phones not on silent. But I just love that, like, motherfuck, noich, noich, noich. It's just like, I'll just walk around singing that sometimes.
That is so good.
Such a good scene. It just cracks me up every time.
And it was baby Harley Quinn that was playing. Was it playing the baby Silent Bob? I think, wasn't it? Or
was it Silent Bob?
I can't remember which one. It was. She was definitely one of them, wasn't she?
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's right. Because Mum says, "You stay here, you little fucker, while I go and try and score." Yeah.
Keep on trucking. Fuck yeah! Can you fucking believe this guy? Yeah, it's such a good movie.
I mean, like what you said earlier on, the cameos in that are just. I mean, not only Mark Hamill, you got Carrie Fisher. It's just so many, and it's such a good laugh. Will Ferrell as well. I mean, he wasn't a massive star then, was he? I don't think.
He was starting. He was getting there.
He must have been getting there. Yeah.
1990 it's 2001 when Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back came out, and I don't remember when. I think this was like pre-Old School, and which everybody quotes for his movies, one of his earlier movies. And so I think he was like right on the cusp.
Yeah, he would have been Saturday Night Live famous, though, wouldn't he? Yeah. And John Stewart was in it as well, just as a. Yeah, it's such
young John Stewart.
So funny, so funny. My number 6, I'm going for my first Dogma one, and Alan Rickman, the Metatron. He is just. There's something about Alan Rickman that he's like you wouldn't think that guy is the same guy that plays the baddie in Die Hard. And he's the same guy that plays the stuck-up guy in Galaxy Quest, and he's the same guy that then plays Snape in Harry. But you wouldn't think that's the same guy. It's not possible. And the fact that I love the moment when he like pulls his pants down and he said, he's like a Ken doll and he's got no genitalia whatsoever.
So that's my number 4, by the way.
Oh, that's your number 4. Oh, we got one. We got one. And the fact that he's not allowed to drink, so he drinks and then spits it out into another glass and all that kind of stuff. He's, you can just tell that he had a lot, and of course he was the sheriff of Nottingham in Robin Hood as well. You forget about that.
Oh yeah, Nottingham. Yes. I was like, wait, was he? But I was thinking Mel Brooks.
Oh yeah, no.
That was a different one,
in the Kevin Costner, the Kevin Costner Robin Hood.
He's such an excellent actor, though, and that's the great thing about him is that he becomes whatever it is he's supposed to play.
Yeah.
And so it's him because you love him as a person, but then you can respect that, separately from the characters he plays.
I can remember in the making of documentary, because I had the region. Oh God, these old days. The Region 1 DVD of Dogma, so it played in America, but you could chip your DVD players over here so that it would play everything. And Kevin Smith said that Jay Mewes learned every line of the script, not just his own dialogue, but everybody else's, because he knew that there was people like Alan Rickman who were like Shakespearean actors, and he didn't want to look like he was some like dweeb just off the street trying to learn his lines. So he learned every single line of everybody just to make sure that he was ready to be in front of people like Alan Rickman and. Which I thought was such a great way of just like learning your craft, whatever shit that Jay Mewes would have been going through at the time or before or after that. I thought that was just really classy to have that kind of respect for the actors.
And I remember the Hollywood Babylon episode after Alan Rickman passed that he eulogized him.
Yeah,
I was like sitting there doing laundry and just like bawling my eyes out, just listening to him pay homage to such a good friend and colleague, and just that his character I think just does so well balanced against Jay and Silent Bob, and the more ridiculous, like the shit monster and stuff. Like it's such a nice balance of things.
It is. And that's the other thing that I love about Kevin Smith is he wears his heart on his sleeve. If he's going to cry about something, he doesn't care whether it's talking about a Star Wars movie or somebody that he's lost or somebody that, you know, he's never too proud that he'll just cry in front of people. And I love that. It makes me feel less of a pussy as well, because I'm always doing that as well. Okay, we're halfway through, so it's time for this.
Oh yeah.
Pop quiz, hot shot.
Now we're going to find out. You know, just how much of a Kevin Smith fan you are here, Maria.
0 out of 0.
No, I don't believe that at all. But here we go. 10 questions, all about Kevin Smith movies. And your first one is, what is the name of the store that Dante works in?
Or Quick Stop. As
easy as that, see? As easy as that. Number 2, which actor played Cockknocker in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back?
Mark Hamill.
Yay.
I was literally just going to quote, like, why do they call you Cockknocker? It's a funny story, really. Actually, it cracks me up.
Oh, dear. Number 3, before being called Cop Out, what was the movie originally going to be called?
Oh, it was going to be called Kevin Smith Gets His Ass Reamed by an A-list actor.
Is that your answer? That would be hell to put out on the poster. That would be. It's not. It's actually A Couple of Dicks is what it was originally going to be called.
Close enough.
Number 4. What is the name of the dating game in Mallrats?
Oh, Truth or Date.
Is correct. Well done. Number 5. I don't even think I should ask you this question because it's so easy. Which musician appears as God in Dogma?
Alanis Morissette.
Is correct. Is that India? Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Number 6. What movie are Matt Damon and Ben Affleck shooting in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back?
Oh, they're shooting Goodwill. It was a Goodwill Hunting, like hunting season.
I will give you that. Yes, it's Goodwill Hunting 2 hunting
That's
season,
right.
but well done. Number 7. What is Banky Edwards' job description in Chasing Amy?
He's an inker.
Is correct.
Or he traces, depending on who you ask.
Lying. Number 8. Which neo-horror movie did Jay and Silent Bob make a cameo in?
Was it Tusk?
No, it wasn't. It was Scream 3.
Oh, I never watched any of the Scream franchise.
Oh, there you go. Number 9. In Dogma, how many days do Bartleby and Loki say they have left on Earth after receiving the article from Azrael?
Shit. Is it 4?
Well done. This girl is on fire. And the final one. Where in New Jersey would you find Kevin Smith's comic book shop, Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash?
Red Bank.
Wonderful. 8 out of 10. That's worth a clap.
Look at fanboys.
Look at that. Well done. Very impressive. You know your stuff. Yes, I would pat you on the back if I could reach, but there you go. That's fantastic stuff. Well done.
Awesome.
Okay, I think that's the best score we've had. I think we had one of our chasers and got and got 8 out of 10 as well. So
that was an excellent episode.
You're in line with the chaser. Look, how about that? A professional quizzer. Well done. Okay, back to the job in hand.
Right.
Your number 5, please.
So my number 5 is from Mallrats.
Yeah,
and it is The Topless Psychic.
The Topless Psychic. Yes.
I just loved that scene so much. And so when my friends and I would rent that movie and stuff, the first time we rented it, I don't remember what I was doing, but I was not in the room for that scene. And I stepped out to do something, either go get pizza or whatever. And I just hear my friend scream, ah, and just like flip her shit, and she's like, oh my god, and she's like laughing hysterically, and I'm like, what the fuck are you laughing at? So she's like, you have to come back. And so she rewinds it and we watched it, and it was just like, and so partially it's because of how funny that is. I love how uncomfortable she makes him, and he's just like freaked out. And then it's also partially because of like my friend's reaction, and it's just a nice memory. It's like, oh, you have a third nipple? I didn't know. What are you talking about? Just playing his nose on your face.
Oh God, yeah. I wonder if that's a clip on YouTube I'll be able to put on the.
I tried searching.
Is it not on there?
I cannot find it.
I feel disappointed.
And she pulls it off and pops it in her mouth at the end.
That's right. Yeah. Oh my God, that is such a good scene. I can't believe I never put that in. Anything topless should go in my top 10. I don't know why I missed that one. Honestly, I am really letting the side down. But that is a great one. It's funny because my number 5 is also from Mallrats, and it's the stink palm.
Oh,
I think with the chocolate covered pretzel, and it is just the ASMR of oh God, what's his name? See, I'm Michael Rooker eating it and licking his fingers. What is just disgusting.
You see like the pretzel bits on his fingers,
and it's also like in the corners of his mouth as well, isn't it? And it's like it can't. You just know exactly just how bad that's
like rubbing on his ring when he's trying.
Yeah, it is
disgusting.
But it is so funny. It is. I mean, Michael Rooker is another one of these great actors that is just different in so many different things. He never seems to play the same sort of character twice.
Yeah.
I love him as an actor. He always looks like he's just ready to go crazy. He's just ready to lose his shit. But that, again, if anyone's never seen it, it is. It makes you cringe while you laugh. That's the thing. It just is so funny. So
I like the scene like right before they go to the dating set where he's like sticking his hand in his pants and they're having the conversation about it, where like TS is talking to Brody and he's like explaining to him why you would stink palm, and TS is just like, meanwhile you yourself are left with a hand that stinks of shit, and he's like, small price to pay for the smiting of one's enemies. And it's just like the way that he says it is just perfect.
That is like quintessential Kevin Smith talk, isn't it? It's that kind of the parlance and the way that it's said. I've often said I've tried to write scripts before, and my dialogue always sounds like, "How are you? I'm fine. Are you really? Yes, I am." And you think it sounds so fucking boring, and then you listen to Tarantino or Kevin Smith, and it's almost like poetry. They say this. They say, "Hello, how are you?" but it's said in a much more interesting and succinct way that it's beautiful to listen to, and it's a true gift. It's a true gift to write dialogue like that.
I can't, like, there was a Lin-Manuel Miranda talks about this where somebody was asking him about how you would become a writer, and he's like, you just keep writing, you write through the shit and you just keep doing it until it becomes more comfortable. But like, that is hard. It's so hard. You
have to have a lot of discipline to do that without a shadow of a doubt. Okay, so your number 4 was Dogma, Metatron. So my number 4 is back to Kevin Smith doing his stand-up, and it's the whole Prince story. So I don't know if you ever heard this one, Maria. So Prince wanted Kevin Smith to do a documentary about him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so again, I don't want to spoil it because it just tells you about Prince in Prince world, as Kevin Smith calls it. One of the things he says is that Prince cannot understand why he can't pick a phone up at 3 a.m. and have a camel delivered. He doesn't understand why that can't happen. So it's fascinating to hear as with our top 10 Prince songs, everyone knows Prince was a genius as far as I'm concerned. But I think with genius comes that little smidgen of madness. And I don't know, some of it I feel is for the cameras, but by the sounds of it, some of it is also just when he's at home. And it feels to me that Prince had a lot of that. But it's I'll put it in the video playlist. It's fascinating just to hear, just a peek behind the curtain of what Prince was probably really like, So yeah, that's my number 4.
I do remember that story.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's so funny. Okay, then number 3, then please, Maria.
My number 3 is from Clerks. I think this is the first appearance of Clerks in my list. And that is, it is Randall at the movie store. And the line that I particularly like is that, "I don't appreciate your ruse, ma'am." And it's the one where the lady's like, "They say so much, but they don't say whether they're good." And she's like asking him if they're good. And he's like, "I don't watch movies." And just being so completely dismissive. And she turns around, she comes back, she's like, well, what about these two? Oh, those suck. They're the same movie. Blah, 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 blah. I don't appreciate your ruse, ma'am. My what? Your cunning attempt to trick me. And so again, it's that whole like Kevin Smith dialogue of just like, you're just having this like conversation. And she's like, well, I'm just trying to show you that you're not paying attention. And I hope it feels good. And it was so, that is, honestly, that is my favorite scene in all of the first Clerks movie, is that scene right there. I love Randall so much. He's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
He's a terrible friend.
Yeah.
But between Randall and Dante, I loved Randall's like sarcasm and his quippiness and just kind of his, for the most part, lack of concern for anybody other than himself when it came to things. So that's such a good scene.
I always thought of it as like, if you worked in a shop or any kind of service industry, Dante is how everybody is. They'll be pissed off, but they'll be kind to the customers. Randall is how you want to be. You want to tell customers to fuck off, or you want to tell customers, just go away or leave the store. He's that side of the coin that says things that you want to say in real life, but you're never allowed to, because you'll get the sack. You'll just get fired. And I'm the same. I've always loved Randall. Just his attitude to everything is again, going to Star Wars, his explanation of Star Wars things or Lord of the Rings or whatever in Clerks 2.
Yeah.
He's never going backwards, coming forwards in regards to giving his opinion to stuff, whether it's going to hurt the person, whether it's his best friend. He just doesn't give a shit. I just realized I haven't got any Clerks in my top 10, but I watched it not long ago, and even now it still doesn't feel like a movie that was made for like $50,000 or whatever.
Yeah,
it just doesn't. I mean, it looks low budget compared to other movies, but it just looks like a normal movie, not like some ultra low budget kind of guerrilla style made movie.
Yeah, I didn't realize that that's how they had made it until years later, but I mean all you needed really for that movie was the dialogue. The dialogue was everything in that. And that's why I loved so many of like Kevin Smith's earlier movies. I feel like, and not for nothing, because I feel like this probably happens to a lot of people, but like once he was able to throw flashier things into it, I don't think that necessarily the dialogue took a backseat, but I think it kind of does two things. I think that as a whole, we as people don't necessarily care as much for dialogue heavy movies and want a little bit more of that ADHD brain, like quick things, like quip, and like move on to the next thing. Whereas like Mallrats, Clerks were a little bit more dialogue heavy. And so I think that's why those are probably some of my more favorites of his.
I completely agree. Okay, so that was your number 3. My number 3, I'm just going to go for Michael Parks in Red State and Tusk. Only because of I've said it before, the top 2 are above it. It didn't make it. Michael Parks isn't number 1. The one thing I realised is I should have had Michael Parks in my top 10 actors of all time, because I just think everything he does is just spellbinding. The stuff that he did with Tarantino, but Red State specifically, where he's playing the sort of the head of the family of this religious cult, is I don't you just cannot take your eyes off of him every time he's on screen. And some might look at it. I know that there was somebody I was talking about it and he's going, "My God, didn't he chew the scenery?" I said, "No, I don't think he does. I don't think they're saying, because they were saying that, God, he really overacts." My friend didn't like Red State at all. And he said, "Oh, he's just overacting and he's really chomping through the scene." I said, "I totally disagree." I said he was the sort of scariest thing I've seen in regards to like a horror movie, without being like a killer that's like knifing people or killing people. He was just chilling, everything he said, and he totally believed in everything that he was saying as well.
Well, and that's the thing too with that, where he's, like like in Red State, especially like that. If you've ever met a religious fundamentalist, a lot of times these people, that is how they are.
Yeah.
And it is fucking terrifying to be in their presence or be anywhere near any collection of those people. It is just like, and so I would say he's pretty spot on with with how he carried himself.
Yeah, and I think any great any great villain is a villain that believes what they're doing is right.
Yep.
They're not doing it because they want to be evil. They're doing it because in their mind it's the right thing to do. And I think that's way more terrifying than somebody who just wants to be bad for being bad or being a Dr. Evil and, you know, $1 billion. They're doing it because their beliefs are that this is the right thing to do. And that is way, way more scary than anybody that's just going to go around with a, you know, with a hockey mask and a bloody chainsaw or something.
Totally.
Oh, anyway, your number 2, please, Maria.
All right. So coming back to Mallrats, my number 2 is the Man of Steel coital debates in the food court.
Right. Okay.
And again, it goes back to Brody and TS talking, right? It's that it's the interplay. It's the speed at which they're speaking. And this is actually, I think this is the scene that made my drama teacher have to review people's submissions. Yeah.
Okay.
Because we did this scene for our drama class, and it's just like where it devolves from like, I guarantee, like, just like breaking down how Superman could possibly not impregnate Lois Lane because his child could not, you know, she couldn't bear his child. Only someone like Wonder Woman would have a strong enough, you know, whatever. And then it goes into the argument between TS and Brody about how a cookie stand is not part of the food court. And he's just like, cookie stand counts as an eatery. Eatery counts as a food court. Cookie stand's upstairs, food court is downstairs. We're not talking quantum. It's just this whole argument where it's just like, this is so important to them. And I may or may not be married to somebody who's that concerned about semantics. Where if it's not exactly right, you have to make that clarification.
Yeah.
But we have so many friends who these are the exact conversations we are having. And it's so good. I love it because it's so inconsequential, but it's so perfect.
That to me is the sign of an amazing writer. Tarantino is the same. They will take the smallest minutia of something and make it into a 10-minute conversation between two people. But it's not something that rambles. It's something that somebody like you or me will look at it and go, I totally understand what they're talking about. Like, I've had that same conversation with somebody, or it's about something just totally that's obscure and, like you say, something in a food court. But they can make it into something that is, again, it's almost like music. It's like they're singing to. It's a duet that they're singing to each other. And I love that kind of dialogue. That's the kind of thing that, especially with Kevin Smith and, like I say, Quentin Tarantino, that I could just listen to all day. It doesn't matter whether the movie is any good, but the dialogue between the two people or three people or whatever it is what makes stories for me sometimes.
Yeah,
but that's
absolutely.
That's a great one. Yeah, that's a great one. Okay, my number 2, I'm going for Dogma, and it's the business meeting.
Yeah,
the Movies business meeting, where Matt Damon and Ben Affleck come into a boardroom at Movies, and basically all hell breaks loose once they start giving people a few of their sort of home truths. And it's the fact that like Ben Affleck keeps rolling his eyes because Matt Damon is being so dramatic with some of the things that he says, but it goes from it being sort of like a very comedic scene to then just being a bloodbath. It's just like a total bloodbath at the end. Save for, I think they saved one woman. Because she was like she was nice, but she was fine. She had nothing wrong with her, did she?
Yeah, but you didn't say "God bless you" when I sneezed.
That was it. Yeah, it was such a great finish to the scene. Yeah, so good. Yeah,
that was an excellent. That was a top contender when I was watching it. That is just so. But you know that's happening in boardrooms across the world where you have these just absolutely heinous individuals who are. Yeah, it was. That was an excellent scene in that movie.
Very good. Okay, so before we reveal our number 1s, would you like to run through your 10 to 2, Maria? I'll do the same, and then we'll see what we've got at number 1.
All right, so my number 10 is from Clerks 3, You're the Hero of My Movie, Dante. Number 9 is from Chasing Amy, What is it about gay men that terrifies the rest of the world, with Hooper X. And from Dogma, number 8, God Does a Handstand. Number 7 from Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. For 25 years, we've been coming here every night and putting gum in the lot. Number 6 from Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Fuck, fuck, fuck. Mother, motherfuck, mother, fuck, fuck. All right. I just wanted to say that again. Number 5 from Mallrats Topless Psychic. Number 4 from Dogma Metatron Meets Bethany. Number 3 from Clerks, I don't appreciate your ruse, ma'am. Number 2 from Mallrats once again, Man of Steel coital debates in the food court.
Lovely. And mine is number 10, Kevin Pollak gets shot in Red State. At number 9, the Superman Lives story. Number 8, Jay and Silent Bob Jedi Mind Trick from Mallrats. And number 7, Johnny Depp in Tusk. And number 6, the Metatron Dogma. Number 5, Stink Palm Mallrats. Number 4, the Prince story in An Evening with Kevin Smith. Number 3, Michael Parks in Red State and Tusk. And at number 2, the business meeting at Dogma, I should say. So, Maria, what is your number 1 Kevin Smith moment?
My number 1 comes from Mallrats once again, and it is the opening monologue from Brody. One time, my cousin Walter got this cat stuck in his ass. True story, that one. When I was in high school, and we were, again, going back to my drama days, I used that as my monologue for one of our assignments. And so I would spend every single free period where we were all with our friends trying to say this monologue so many times until I could say it without laughing. Because it would get to the point where, one time my cousin Walter got this cat stuck in his ass, and laughter. So my friends have probably heard this monologue ad nauseum, and it's quintessential Brody. I know he does it again later on in Truth or Date, where he's talking about how his cousin Walter started masturbating on a plane, but it's this whole deadpan of like, this guy's just like got this cat stuck in his ass, and he does it again. So I see him, and and Jesus, Walter, why, you're buying another cat. Why, you're just gonna get this one stuck in your ass too. Why don't you just knock it off? And he says to me, Brody, how the hell else am I supposed to get the gerbil out? My cousin was a weird guy. And it's just so deadpan and straightforward. That is just perfection. That is, I could change my 2 through 10 multiple times over. That's going to be my number 1 no matter what. No matter what.
Yeah, that is so good. That is so good. It's got so many. I mean, I forgot that like Stan Lee's in Mallrats as well, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
He does as a cameo in there. The whole sailboat magic eye picture that like runs through the whole film as well. It's just got so much stuff. And obviously, a really young Ben Affleck who plays an absolute knob in that. He's just such a horrible character in that as well.
What, like the back of a Volkswagen? It's just like there's that joke. So there's this joke that circulates on the internet that's like, millennials don't, we didn't have memes. We just shouted Chappelle's Show quotes at each other. But I mean, like that's me and Kevin Smith. Like all of my friends and I, we didn't have memes. We would just quote Kevin Smith movies at each other.
I think that's the one thing about Kevin Smith. It's a lot like just any great, like, let's say, Airplane and things like that. Mm-hmm. You'll always find a quote that you can use in every day just to sum things up. So even if it's just fuck, all that kind of stuff, or snoochy booches, or snooch to the nooch, or anything like that. It always bong, or those kind of things. There are some times that those are just perfect little things to throw into a conversation. But okay, my number 1, I'm going for Jay and Silent Bob Meet Justice and the Gang in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. So they're at Moobies having, I think they've just gone on to look at poopshoot.com or something to see what the latest comments have been, and they're waiting for something to eat. And then Justice and the gang of diamond thieves, I think they're diamond thieves, aren't they? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Come out of their, in slow motion, they come out of their truck to this music, and they're doing the usual sort of like slow motion swaying their hair, and Shannon Elizabeth comes into Moobies, but this is in Jay's mind, and starts making out with him in the middle of it, and then all of a sudden he's got this massive erection in his pants, and he's just like, he's hyperventilating, and Silent Bob gets an empty cup and just sort of screws it onto his pants tent. And that's when he says, "Oh, Silent Bob, I just think I've just filled the cup." He says,
Yeah.
"It's such a good line," and I think
my
it's just
God.
it just sums up the sort of ridiculousness of like Kevin Smith movies. But you've got the fact that like Shannon Elizabeth is like really hot, and I mean I can imagine that Jay must have been messing up takes just to be able to keep doing that over and over again, just so that you got to kiss her all those times. But even to the point that in the I think isn't he trying to get his hand on her boob or on her ass or something, and she has to move it down, even in his dream, sort of stops him from having a good feel. But it's just so good. It's just
he calls her Boo Boo Kitty Fuck.
Boo Boo Kitty Fuck. That's right. And then she's obviously in. Is she in? She's in the reboot, isn't she? Because obviously Jay's then got the daughter. But so good, so good. Okay, we had a few honourable mentions. Heidi Grande said Catch and Release is not a very well-known movie, but the character he plays I really liked. And then Tammy Trimble says, Heidi Grande, I love this film too. I thought I was the only one. Have you ever seen Catch and Release?
I don't believe I have. If I recall, I think it's kind of a romance-ish.
Yeah.
And so I probably didn't
No,
end up watching it.
I think there is one of the clips of Kevin Smith in it on YouTube. So if it is, I'll put it in the show notes. Dan Rosk says Clerks worked in a video store when it was released. Pretty spot on. Best part is when Randall is on the phone ordering adult titles. Oh yeah, and Happy Scrappy Hero Pup. Nancy Bush says when Silent Bob speaks on Jay and Silent Bob and the Prince documentary bit in his stand-up. That was the other thing, is that when Silent Bob did speak, it would usually be these amazing words of wisdom or this, some amazing story, that like the whole Chasing Amy thing.
Yeah, that was one of my favorites. Like that one and Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, when he's talking about like likenesses and stuff like that when they're having that argument.
Yeah,
those are two of my favorites of his like speaking parts.
Yeah, and another great thing about Kevin Smith movies is if you get a chance, is watch the bloopers as well, because there's some great bloopers. If I find them, I'll put them on the video players for our Patreon subscribers. Great. I always think it shows you that they had fun making the movie, because they'll all of a sudden just start laughing because they can't control themselves. I did Nancy Bush, yeah. I should ding that.
Did you?
I did Nancy Bush. There you go, Nancy. Sean Finch, The Heart Attack, the original Hollywood Babylon episode taped at K-Rock as well. Can't wait for this one. So thank you very much for that, Sean. Dan the Man Harper, chapter 1 of his book. The chapter is dedicated to his dad's balls. Of course it is.
Of course they are. Of course it is.
And then he says, but I don't have a singular moment. I love Kevin Smith. More as a person than a filmmaker or podcaster. The sincerity he has and his general openness is what I have strived for. There you go. And at Nowhere Andy said, hard to pick, but that chick frosted me like I was a fucking cake from Zack and Miri is brilliant. That's a movie we haven't really thought about, isn't it? Zack and Miri made a porno.
I watched it and it was good, and it was one of those where it's like sort of in the realm of like it had like a romance story attached to it, because they end up like there's feelings there, I guess.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same reason that I didn't do like Chasing Amy as until recently. And so yeah, it's a good movie.
Yeah.
Like it's great, but I don't think I guess for me, I don't think Kevin Smith when I see it.
No, it definitely felt like it was more of a studio movie. Do you know what I mean? It was that was just directed by him. But look, I was just going to have a look on IMDb what he's actually got in sort of planned, because I know that obviously he's been more into TV, because he did Supergirl, didn't he? He did the Supergirl TV series.
And he did the Goldbergs.
The Goldbergs. What was the name of the... Masters of the Universe. Sorry, that was the thing that he had, which seemed to sort of be. From one minute I heard and said that everyone was saying that it was rubbish. The next minute everyone was saying that it was great. So I don't know. It kind of sort of like fell out of favor with the fanboys for some reason. I'm not quite sure why.
I remember hearing rumblings about that. I would have to ask. I think I'd have to ask my husband about that, because I know he's definitely a lot more in the camp of quote unquote fanboys. It's like, I mean, if it's quality, it's quality. Like he loved a lot of things that other people didn't like. except for the last couple of Star Wars movies. Apparently, everybody hates them.
Yeah. Because I remember that he was, because obviously he went through a spate where his podcasts were giving him ideas for movies, and he was going to do a Krampus movie, and that ended up being made by somebody else. Somebody else decided to do that. The Sean William Scott movie, The Goon, which was like about an ice hockey player. I know that Kevin Smith hit somebody was the name of the movie that he had. I think was going to have Sean William Scott in it, and ended up not sort of happening. So he had loads of movies that you'd always talk about, saying this is going to be the next one, this is going to be the next one. But I believe Jay and Silent Bob is the next one that he's going to.
I thought he was also going to do another Mallrats.
That was the plan, I think. I think they had a mall that they were going to use, and I think it all sort of fell through. Yeah, 'cause it was going to be, what was it going to be called? It had a really clever name, but I honestly can't remember what it was named. So I'm sure someone will tell us. But that's it. We've done it.
Yeah. Yay!
Another one in the bag. Maria, we
Hooray.
managed to get it done finally. And
We
Kevin,
did.
if you do happen to watch this, we do love you. We absolutely love you. And,
Love the shit out of you, man.
Yeah, absolutely do. And just keep doing what you're doing. That's all we can say. Maria, thank you so much for joining us once again.
Always a pleasure.
It's always a pleasure to talk to you and see that lovely, lovely face.
I put makeup on for you.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
Calm down. Now calm your tits. Come on. I mean, goodness me, you didn't have to do that. You're beautiful without it anyway. You don't need makeup. You look beautiful anyway.
Well, at least now this way I don't like totally hate my face.
Oh God. Anything you want to find out about the podcast, if you want to subscribe, you want to become a Patreon subscriber and email, go to the show notes. It's all there. All the links to listen and watch the podcast is all up on there as well. Thank you once again, Maria. Bless your heart. Thank you very much. And for everybody else, snooch to the nooch.
Bang.
Hey.